hello. Welcome to the very first episode of
You Missed It?
This is a show about five individuals here, and we're here to talk about underrated movies. Underrated movies that we feel like have not been seen by enough people. Sure, maybe some of us have seen a couple of our choices, but today, each episode, I'm fucking this up so bad. Someone come in. Zach?
So basically on You Missed This, we're basically just kind of bringing up different films that each one of us kind of thinks is underrated to see if everybody else not only agrees, but also brings up these films for other people to discover who may be listening in, who have not even heard of it or maybe have heard of it, but not checked it out. Or even if they have watched it, say like a long time ago, but think they might want to rewatch it. Maybe they need to rediscover and maybe get a new appreciation, of these, films that we're bringing up.
Yeah, it's going to say it better myself. Thanks, Zach.
No problem.
For today's episode, actually, before we get into the movie, let's introduce each other here. I'm Jack.
I'm Rylan.
I'm Zachariah.
Andrew.
And I am Alex.
Cool. That's all you'll know about us. All right. The first movie today, I happened to be the lucky individual to pick the first movie for the show, and today we watched a movie called And Justice for All. No, not the Metallica album or anything like that, though I wish. Man, wouldn't this movie been so much better with Metallica music?
That's what I was going to say. The one thing that was a bit off about this is that we weren't listening to the soundtrack, real soundtrack. I mean, I get that, they had some crazy music in this. That was the first viewing, but I think another viewing. So I'm even promoting a second viewing for this. Don't just watch this once. Watch it the second time with Metallica.
Oh yeah, like I just kept thinking all morning, which is like someone has to have done a YouTube cut to the song "And Justice for All." Someone should make a trailer to the song "And Justice for All." Like, someone do that, please, for me.
Why stop it there? Make an entire fan movie. We need to make it like The Wall, except Metallica.
I was gonna say Wizard of Oz. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Or someone goes on YouTube, they take the instrumental music of And Justice for All and they supercut it with Al Pacino yelling. Because anything that Al Pacino yells is great, and it's perfect for a metal song. I'm out of order, you're out of order.
Oh, it'd be great.
I would buy that record.
In a heartbeat. Oh, yeah. So, this movie, you probably wonder what it's all about. So, it's a 1979 movie released by Columbia Pictures. And it was directed by Norman Jewison. And it was written by Valerie, Curtin, and Barry Levinson. Barry Levinson, most famous for directing and writing Rain Man. And he also wrote Good Morning Vietnam. It stars Al Pacino, Jack Warden, John Forsythe, Lee Strasberg, Jeffrey Tambor, and Craig T. Nelson. Those last two, this is one of their first movies. It was made on a budget of $4 million, and it grossed over $33 million. It was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, including Best Actor and Best Original Screenplay.
The movie stars Pacino as Arthur Kirkland, an incorruptible defense attorney who tries to help free innocent clients trapped in a corrupt legal system, but is then blackmailed to defend a cold and self-righteous judge accused of rape.
The movie, of course, is most famous for its courtroom outburst at the end where Pacino just shouts, as you so eloquently did, Alex, "You're out of order, you're out of order," whatever. We've all heard it. But a lot of people have not really seen the movie. And I'll be honest, I've only seen this movie once prior to this show, and when I first saw it, I really dug it, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm a big Al Pacino fanboy, so I was like, yeah, this is just another great Al Pacino movie. But compared to the rest of his catalog, it felt like it was kind of like not talked about enough. It had a lot of, really strong performances. It was a good movie. Now, I've seen this 10 years ago. Now, seen it now. I still think it's a really good movie. I still like it. I think it's really funny in a lot of parts. And the real drama parts and the serious parts were really good. But I feel like that's the one thing I can definitely say about this movie is that its tone was a little bit all over the place.
It is. It kind of surprised me. Like I wasn't expecting this to be a funny movie, which was a pleasant surprise, but it really just shift back and forth. Like when it does get serious, it's like, boom, it's like a big right turn and it's like, oh, crazy. But then it's like, oh yeah, does it know what it wants all the time?
Yeah. And I'll just finish my point before we go across. But yeah, and I feel like the only other thing that was a hinder to this movie was the fact that it was made in the 70s, and it just shows with the music and everything like that. It does hinder it a little bit because it just takes you right out of some of the more comedic bits or come to the more serious bits. But overall, though, I thought each scene, like on its own, was either when it was funny or serious was really good. I thought the comedic parts were hitting home. I thought the serious parts were really good and deep, and it really, the whole movie is a satirical look at the American justice system in a nutshell, and it really does show both sides where you kind of go, oh my god, what, this is madness, as Pacino said. But at times you just have to step back and just laugh at it, how ridiculously insane the whole system is. And that's sort of what the movie was doing, how it is a mess, it's all over the place. So if it's trying to reflect the courtroom system in that sense, then it succeeded. But as a movie, there were times where it just kind of switched back and forth. Like there's a girlfriend character throughout the whole movie who I thought was just, every time I cut back to her, I was like, hey, can we get back to something else? And so, but her scenes weren't bad.
No.
It just kept jumping from scene to scene to scene. So I don't really feel like this movie had a real plot, like an overall plot. It was just a bunch of little stories, little subplots that kind of anchor around this one character, played by Al Pacino, as he kind of is hopping back between each subplot. I didn't really see it as one big overarching, you could have made a whole movie about the thing with the judge, about, taking him down and all that. But no, they go about talking his clients, different kinds, and how they're screwed over by the system, and then how defense lawyers can be affected by their clients and getting murderers off and all that, and having to deal with those consequences of what if they do something again. And I thought that was really interesting, really cool. But then you had that helicopter scene, which is just it's great, but it is completely unnecessary in the overall arc of the movie. But that's the thing, and it's just it's both I'll kind of move on to, I want to hear what everyone else thinks. So, Alex, let's start with you.
I liked it. Like you, I hadn't seen it in at least 10 years, if not more. And when I first saw it, I was watching a lot of films at that time, like one after the other. And it didn't really resonate with me. I remember the helicopter scene, and of course I remembered the ending line. And I think a lot of people misquote that because he says it twice. He says, "You're out of order. You're out of order," and it goes like that. And people only remember that specific snippet. There's more to it than that should be quoted. But the film, it showed. The 70s showed, like the clothes and the way it was cut, the music especially.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on and on and on about the music, even though I shouldn't. Because I think the number two performance in this film, aside from Pacino, was the bad choice of music. I don't know who scored it. I'm glad that it was a very, very short amount. Like that weird music at the beginning, after the Pledge of Allegiance was said by the kids, it didn't really fit.
No.
And
it was definitely one of the things I was like, yeah, this is a time of the 70s, and this would never fly today. Especially in contrast with the deep stuff that happens in this. This is silly, the movie's not supposed to be that silly.
No.
At least, but then again, we're watching this made almost 38 years later.
Right.
So certain music, things that were popular then will not fly now. But it did the worst thing, which is it made it dated, and that's something that's kind of why I think this movie is sort of not as looked at, because the things that make it dated really make it dated. So I kind of see now why it's not that appreciative, or at least that looked at as much. I think just because of those issues, as you mentioned. But sorry, continue.
And it could have been as well dating. That music could have been put in there for the comfort of the audience, because at the time it came out in 79. So just to get people into it and familiar with something to pull them in. Maybe.
Right.
Just my opinion. On the whole, I liked the movie, but it was really wavy. The music will bring you up into that silly mode, kind of. Then when they get into the case with the judge, it goes down really deep. and then it'll come up again when it's Pacino's character and Christine Lottie. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. Their relationship, how that's a bit tumbly, and then it goes to something else, like his other client, the one client that killed himself after he got sentenced. Like it's going through a piece of his life, like a tumultuous piece of his life. That could have been a point in that character's life that he veered off. Like after he was taken out of that courtroom at the end of the movie, his character could have been disbarred. He could have become a bum. He could have gone to be a bartender. That could have been the one thing that changed his life. I liked some of the chaos in his life and what was happening to him, because that's real people's lives. And to dramatize that is very difficult. So I like that part of it. I like that he was being pulled in all these different directions. So on the whole, I like the movie. I don't want to give it like a rating system, but I would say 70% I loved it, 30% not so much, mainly because of the music. And there was a lot going on. Like I said, I loved the chaos, but it's kind of hard to describe. I'd have to see it again and do a commentary track over
Almost,
it.
yeah. But anyways, Andrew, what do you think?
So, I've never seen this before. I liked it. I never even heard about this movie, actually. So just a funny thing about this watched the entire film, got to the very end of the movie, and realized that that's the end sequence, the sequence where he shouts the most quoted line from that film for sure. Then it clicked. I was like, oh, it's that movie. It's that movie where he says, "You're out of order." That's that movie. Holy shit. And then the movie ends.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck? So
that's a product of the 70s, a freeze frame ending, that's straight out of Rocky or whatever, that's of the times for sure.
Like, holy, like at least for like Citizen Kane, which I still haven't seen, I at least know that Rosebud thing is the end of the movie. I at least know that. I had no clue for this. So that was just a random thing I noticed at the end, but I agree. Tonally, this movie's all over the place. I liked it. But I think that I don't think that it works as a piece of satire, just because it's, in order to be satirical, I feel like it also has to be, it has to handle its subject, what it's trying to be a satire of. It has to respect that. I feel like it has to make you think at the end of the day, make these comparisons, right? So one thing that I noticed about the film is that it'll bring up all these serious issues, and it does point to a lot of issues in the judicial system, but it undercuts these things. It makes them seem not as, it makes them seem like they're not quite as serious as they actually are, just because all of a sudden he'll bring up a serious issue, bring up something that's important, like he's talking about these people's lives, or talking about how basically somebody's in prison just because of some small statute that made it so that you throw out evidence. Basically it kind of it's tough to explain, just because I find myself like, it'll say something like that, and then the next scene it'll just be making a joke about something about that issue or something else. It'll just change topics all of a sudden, and then it won't bring that up again.
So it's more like it's not respecting the weight of the issue. Per se.
Not at all. And I think that because it's like a half comedy and half dramatic, that's why, because it can't focus in on one thing. Like, you can be funny, but at the same time, if you're going to bring in these weighty issues, like one thing that really stood out to me is they begin the film with basically somebody who's in transition, right, and would be uncomfortable in a prison, obviously, right? And they bring up this very serious topic and something that I connected with, but then they don't seem to give it the time of day. Like you get this this really moving kind of story, something that I found to be very moving, but then it gets like maybe 10 minutes total out of the film, like spread out, I guess, but it's still, it gets basically no time. And then it just seems like they rush through all of this, and they're also kind of using this character as the punchline to a joke as well. It feels like, which also takes away from it. Like, you can't make fun of this and also say, no, but this is a real issue, but then make a joke that kind of takes away from that, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I do agree with you. I think, again, I think this is what it goes against the hinder of the movie, that it is of its time.
I was gonna say,
it's of its
welcome
day.
to the 70s.
And that was a big thing where, like, especially like the subject matter that it does deal with was not a very mainstream thing to show in particularly in a big movie like that, an Oscar nominated movie like that.
Yeah.
Like prior to that, like I can only think of like horror movies using
Right.
transsexuals or anything like that, or anything like that of that time.
Uh-huh.
And I think for it to even show anything at all, I think is at least something. But to go off of what you were saying, and though, Andrew, I think that was sort of the point of the director to kind of structure it like that, because that's sort of the mindset of the lawyer. How certain cases don't get enough time, they're treated like, you know, afterthoughts, not as actual people, and they're like it's just cashing checks or like whatever that one lawyer said.
Right,
it's like it's just whatever, and he's like, but these are people. And I think that goes to I think that's sort of what the movie was trying to build around towards. It's showing like this lawyer is being dragged to all these different things that each one deserves its own focus and movie about. But I think that's sort of the point of it, that there is no timing of this. It's just like once he was sentenced, it's like, get out of the way, we need the next one. There is no true like justice in a sense, and that's sort of what the movie is trying to say. And having the kids say that they all have to pledge this in school every day. That's what they always do. And yet, when you see the actual system in process, it's being portrayed as a joke, or it's not functioning. And I feel like moments that should be given that attention, as you pointed out, you get connected with that, but within that system, it's not. So I feel like that was sort of what they were going with, but at the same time, with how the movie is structured, just in terms of editing and pacing and tonally, that's where it loses it. And anyways, yeah.
I can kind of agree. Like, I didn't mind the fact that he had so many clients, because that's normal. Yeah, of course, a lawyer's going to have many clients, and having all these stories. I didn't mind the fact that it had all these different kind of, you kind of call it like side plots. I think you referred to them as they're like these little, you know, he would go from one to the other. Yeah. And I didn't mind that because, yeah, they have they obviously have a lot of clients to deal with, and they're going to see drastically different things. I actually like that about the movie. I didn't mind that part of it, and giving it time. I understand that you have to focus in on multiple clients. So that was okay, but they didn't just do it with the clients. They did it with so another plot thread was his partner, the other lawyer, who has like a breakdown, and then they follow him through that breakdown, but they never resolve anything. He goes through this traumatic event, and you know, it seems to really affect him in a really profound way, because that wasn't just like, you know, emotionally hurting and starting to get over it. That is a guy messed up to beyond what most people are, right? Like, that's serious.
Yeah, the fact that he was brought in that quickly, I
like,
think is a little far-fetched.
Yeah, it was far-fetched, but it was trying to, I guess it was dramatizing just how seriously he took this, which is fine. Like, but at the same time, they just let it go after that, like, because the movie needed to end. It was coming near its runtime, and I feel like they just, okay, we need to wrap this up. Which sucks. Yeah, and they turned him into a joke. Another tonal issue is that they literally ended it on a joke with this character.
Yeah.
Who you're like, wait, how did he even remotely get over this that quickly?
Yeah.
So it, you know, that's just one of the things, and that kind of brings me to where I'll kind of where I'll sum up on this is that ending was so abrupt for me, and that's what really. This movie could have been. So, like I said, I liked it. I'm somewhere. I'm above halfway. I'm somewhere between. If I had to, a 60 to 70.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere in there. And I think it could have been, I could have liked it a lot more if it had just kept going. Because as soon as it got really, it got pretty compelling. I thought it was going somewhere really interesting and I wanted to see it to its conclusion, but it just ended immediately. Like he spouts that quotable line. And if you have that quotable of a line, right as your film is 1 minute from ending, I feel like... especially a line like that, like you're out of order, that feels like something that should be, in the third act or something, the beginning of the third act. So I feel like for whatever reason, they just couldn't go over 2 hours. Like it would have been too long and they couldn't finish what they wanted to finish. I feel like there was more of that movie left.
Yeah, no, I definitely see where you're coming from for sure. And I go back to it. Like it's definitely what hinders the movie the most is it's a product of its time. In terms of how the ending is, like I said, that's so 70s. And I do get what, in terms of what the director, I guess what he would come from, or his mindset for that point would be like, well, after that scene, can you really top it? It's like, that's your good night, everybody. Like, that's pretty much what Pacino was saying. Like, I just made my opening statement as his conclusion. Like, you could have just ended it right there, but you had the little tale at the end with Jeffrey Tambor, hello. And all that, but I do see what you mean. It's over. You're just like, whoa, and you're like, that could have kept going. And yeah, I do agree with you on a lot of things. So, famous.
Just before I get into it, I just wanted to point it out that on the back of the DVD, Al Pacino looks like he's taking a huge shit.
Oh yeah, let's see.
Just look at that for a minute. Just ponder. Ponder on that.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh God, indeed. Oh God, indeed.
Yeah. Oh God, the helicopter scene was
cannot unsee.
No, it's good. That's great.
He looks
since you brought that up, I would also like to read the final sentence on the back of the DVD.
Oh, what?
The final explosive courtroom scene is unforgettable, and that picture of Al Pacino with that, you're like, yeah, it looks like he's just like. Yeah, it looks explosive.
Oh, it was.
Is this a scat porn film?
Jeez. Oh, I mean, the soundtrack certainly sounded like it was. Yeah, so I think a lot of things have been said that I agree with. I mean, from the score, that was kind of the first thing I wanted to bring up. I mean, just the fact that it's so lighthearted and it caught me so off guard because I figured, this coming into this movie not knowing really anything about it but the line and that Al Pacino was in it and that it was in the 70s. Was that, that I thought it was going to be dead serious, a dead serious drama. But then it's right from the beginning, it's not. That score. I mean, well, first of all, they have these kids, and I wanted to bring that up too. The kids at the beginning, I don't know if you guys have seen that meme where the kid is trying to explain things and he just mumbles. He's like, and he can't say anything. And that's what the kids sounded like. The kids they needed to fire those kids. Because, they couldn't keep a sentence. No. They're messing up the justice.
Are you talking about the kids doing the Pledge of Allegiance?
Very beginning.
Just the reading was so I planted the flag. They just learned how to read a week ago.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, I have a point.
Well, no.
Make later.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll talk about that later.
All right. But anyways, so the music was this really kind of crazy tone, and it's okay, so we're watching this lighthearted, comedy, and a lot of times it was. And the difficult thing about this movie, again, that's been said a few times here, is that it is really funny at a lot of parts, but then it gets dead serious and stuff like that, where they just drop the score, and it's well, I guess it's the only way you can do it. If you had that score, the whole thing would be ridiculous.
At the very least, it wasn't there was times where the music just was gone.
Right, and that's the only way they could here's the dramatic stuff. That guy could not do dramatic music, clearly.
No, this was it's just yeah, this is the music is like, yeah, this really should be. Someone really should redub this whole movie with Metallica music.
Honestly, because I mean, it would kind of bring some darkness to it.
All of it,
darkness
yeah.
is imprisoning me.
Yeah, all I see
Right?
is absolute horror.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, and about like the quote and things like that, because I know Andrew, you were really hung up about that. It seemed. I mean, the quote, it does kind of sum up the movie. I mean, a little bit too. The you're out of order, all that, right? So it comes at the end, and I did like how it's like that was my opening statement and stuff like that. But I do also agree that obviously there should have been more. To kind of build on that. It was like, oh, this is getting really good. Like, I really enjoyed that scene a lot, and then it just kind of ended. So that was, it was a little like super abrupt and all that too, but, and it ends on like a joke and stuff. So it is that tonal problem. I think we've all agreed on that. It's like, it's really happy and things like that for most of the movie, really, I found. Until about like the last quarter, you started to get like these really serious, like shit really went down with all the clients and stuff like that he'd been going through. And I think that was kind of the point that, it was rearing up. It's like, oh, this is like an everyday thing. It's no different from somebody working at like their retail job or, like at a Subway or something, where it's just every day you're making sandwiches, every day they're dealing with clients, like whatever. But then you kind of see like mentally like how it weighs on different people and kind of what they go through, and the fact that some just don't give a shit, whereas like Al Pacino, he's kind of like more moral, right?
He's the lawyer with a heart of gold.
Right. And I think it's kind of building, and it kind of like builds and builds and builds, where he just kind of can't take the system anymore and wants to, tear it down and bring injustice for all.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, like I think we're kind of all on the same page, and it's kind of a hard one with this show, because it's not like brilliant, but it's not like a terrible movie either. And it does excel at a lot of points. Like I know it was nominated for Al Pacino and the screenplay, right?
Yeah, original screenplay. Yeah.
And I mean, I thought definitely Al Pacino was very good, as he always is. Well, I mean, until recently, sometimes.
Yeah, yes,
but
that was his peak years. Like that, the 70s was like Pacino, and then the 80s.
Dunkachino is prime Al Pacino, and don't you ever forget it. Jack and Jill forever.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, no, but and honestly, I'll say that the screenplay honestly was honestly not entirely at fault here. I think it actually was really good. I think the quips are really funny, the jokes.
Yeah.
I think it was more the direction that was at fault here. That's what I kind of noticed. It's like, okay, if you had a different person who kind of honed this, and took it over, I think you could have had something really great.
I do feel like, I that actually is a great point. I do feel like, because I have no issues with like I said, it was all scenes, and all the scenes on their own, like pacing, writing, whatever, was good. Yeah, it's just as a whole,
the structure wasn't there to pin him.
It was imbalanced. It was a mix, as Alex said. It was a wave of just everything.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. I mean, you need a spine to like put everything together, right? And I mean, and like I said, the scenes, were very good. But it's just, I mean, some of them obviously were a bit weird, like the helicopter scene, which I mean, was like for complete comic relief. And even though it was very comedic though throughout, like I don't think you really needed it.
No, that one is just like, because all it is just a segue to finally the judge saying, no, you got to do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, you could have just said that without needing Al Pacino going, oh God, let me down.
Yeah, like why couldn't they just cut straight to that coffee scene?
Yeah,
where they're just like, you know what, like you got to do this.
It would have been funny. Like you could have had it as a great cutaway joke. Is just like, where it cuts for him in the helicopter, or go down, up, and cut straight to him,
and he's traumatized.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah,
like that could have still worked. Where in terms of just keep the pacing up a little bit. But
another thing I will bring up too, I mean, that hasn't really been brought up yet, but I think we're all kind of thinking of it too, is it was a little long too. I think it was like what, 2 hours? Yeah. It felt a little long. It felt a little longer than that. Yeah,
like I said, there's certain scenes that like moments where they would cut back to. I'm just like, I don't care about this much.
Yeah, just filler.
And it was I do think anything with the female character was the least intriguing, or at least least engrossing, because they're just sort of repeating all what their issues are with the system. It's all just talking heads. It wasn't actually dealing with it where you see it firsthand with him dealing with the clients or with the judge. To me, that alone explained everything. Those two were just sort of reiterating the same points. The themes of the movie is about, she's on one side saying, no, you gotta obey the law, but it's like, but what about what's right and all that? And it just kept going back and forth about that. But
yeah, I think at the end of the day, though, I mean, it's a good film, but yeah, it just kind of has some problems like that. Just too much filler, weird music. Metallica. I'm kind of curious to see it with that though.
yeah, for sure.
The remastered.
The remastered.
Rylan, go ahead.
All right, so this is my first time seeing this movie as well, and really, it's a pretty basic story when you pare it down to it. Basically, about no good deed going unpunished, and essentially trying to survive in a corrupt system where those who are also corrupt will get dragged in, and the good will crack eventually. And so we're watching this character as he's going through all that. I mean, yeah, I agree with basically what all of you guys have said about the tone and pacing being an issue. I feel like it was handled more as a series of short stories. Like, I didn't feel really very much throughout the film kind of the compounding weight of all of these on this character. I kind of just felt like he was dealing with these things just kind of one at a time. And I mean, I also get what you guys are saying about like that being part of the daily grind for him, but this whole movie is about this character kind of getting pushed to the breaking point where eventually he bucks off the rules of the system and is like, no, you're out of order, which is definitely an awesome line and fun to say. So yeah, basically I feel like I agree that the writing was good and surprisingly funny at parts, but I feel like just because the way it was paced out, a lot of it didn't have the weight that it could have. And Andrew, you stole my adjective for the ending, which was abrupt. Like, honestly, yeah, we just had this like huge, like powerful, cathartic moment where you got Al Pacino saying "screw you" and doing the right thing, the morally right thing, not necessarily the legally right thing, which, as we learn in this movie, is not necessarily the same thing.
Oh yeah, he's totally screwed at that. Like, he's done. Well, yeah, but yeah, basically you have this like intense scene and you're coming down off of that, and then the movie's just like, hey, well, that's it. We're done. And I didn't really appreciate that either, because like a lot of this movie does raise a lot of important kind of moral and philosophical questions, and I certainly understand that that the director can't and probably shouldn't answer all of them within the film's runtime, but didn't really kind of give us time to slow down and kind of take away to ponder what still needed to be answered. It's kind of just like, well, here you go, we're done. Stuck on that for a while. They should have put that at little moment of Pacino like running, maybe at the very end.
That was weird too.
That was weird.
That didn't really make any sense.
No, it didn't really. It just had him going from one place to the other. You could read it on his face when it had that. Like, I do like that shot of where it holds on him as he's running in almost like a circle.
Yeah,
and you can just see there's a lot of what you can see on his face, and that's what's the best part about Pacino as an actor is just you can just read so many emotions out of his face. However, I had no idea what the emotions were. What was he like? Yeah, maybe he was overwhelmed by everything, but I don't think. Yeah, as you said, it just felt okay.
Yeah,
and that's where Andrew was.
And
well, like I agree with your abrupt ending. Like the idea of like, to your point, you're saying it ends right away, and I thought that was hilarious because I felt like it ended on a joke. Like you guys were saying, it ended on a joke, which is so weird. After that, all of that, I felt like the credits just rolled up, and it was like the Seinfeld ending should have been. Music should have been playing at the end. Like it just, hey there, dun, 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 dun,
yeah,
dun,
yeah, it was like two jokes, because I mean you have the one with Jeffrey Tambor, and then you have the other one which is just the fucking music.
Yeah.
In general.
You guys were talking about the helicopter scenes. Going back to that for a minute, I mean, that was pretty funny and out of nowhere, but I wish we'd instead devoted that time to learning more about the character of that judge. because we get told he's suicidal. We see him with a shotgun in his mouth later in the movie, and it's treated as a joke. And yet, at the same time, we're witnessing the breakdown of this other character through the duress that he's going through, sticking to this system. And I feel like I wish, if instead of having that pointless helicopter scene, we could have taken that time to maybe delve into the psychological elements of it a little bit more. Like, I feel like maybe that was supposed to be what that scene was. I'm sure it was supposed to be some sort of character development, but if there was, it went over my head.
There was no character development with the judge. There's no character development with the judge. It was just whenever he's on screen, you're gonna laugh. He's gonna do something outrageous that's just gonna. That was his whole role, to be the judge that is like, you had the dead serious judge, and they have the one who's a little kooky who shoots a gun in a court to get everyone's attention.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, that was great.
Well, the guy was hilarious, but I mean, the fact that makes the fact that he's going through all of this that much more meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking firsthand with difficulties in mental illness, I can tell you that element spoke a lot to me.
Yeah, that's definitely like the one thing, as you were saying, as both of you were saying, is like they didn't put enough respect towards it. Is dealing with mental issues. A lot of it was played up for a joke. It was like, and maybe some of that was a bit of the point when it gets dead serious, like when the transsexual guy hangs himself at the end. You're like, oh shit, like this is not a joke, but it again, it's just dropped on you. You know, it didn't really earn it per se.
Yeah, it felt a little. Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant by like it didn't carry the impact that it could have. Is like I don't feel like it necessarily earned those moments that it was trying so hard to strive for. And also I felt that one guy dying felt a little To Kill a Mockingbird-y to me. A little bit.
What do you mean?
It's like, going through all the effort to save him, and then like
you're talking about that guy. I was just gonna say that's probably the only one that felt kind of warranted. I felt like they treated his storyline pretty seriously.
Yeah, I don't think they could have given it more attention, if anything, because I would have been really any of the storylines, and it could have been its own story. So
like all of them, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think like all the stuff with the clients, like the guy who got nailed for a broken taillight is in jail for no reason except for just a faulty system. Like that stuff I thought was really good.
Yeah.
I think out of all besides the stuff with the judge, I thought that was really good.
I'm really curious if somebody redid this film, but as a complete drama, like took it dead serious. I think a lot of the stuff would have been really powerful. Like, I mean, granted, I thought like even the suicidal stuff with the judge, I honestly thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, I did too.
But I mean, but at the same time, though, if you had like taken that seriously, if you'd taken everything seriously with like, obviously your moments of humor that you'd need, I think this film could have been very powerful, in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I'm not saying it should be entirely humorless either,
no,
but
no.
I think it needs to know what it's trying to do, what it's trying to say, and how it's trying to say it, and I'm not sure that it did.
No.
But I mean, I don't know if these who knows? We keep going back to product of the time, so I don't know if these topics were considered as hot button as they were back then. And I mean, because the movie's got 70s written all over it, unremarkable cinematography, heinous fashion, and I mean, I thought I was going to be the only one to comment about the music, but I mean, everybody else
we
has.
all commented on the music like 5 seconds into it. We all went like, whoa.
So there's only one more thing that I can say on the matter of the score, and I will use a quote from the film for that. In theory, it's commendable. In practice, it sucks.
Nice.
I didn't mention the music, but I agree.
Yeah, that's great. That's good.
I mean, no.
You had mentioned something, Zach, and I completely forgot about what it was because that damn music is in my head now.
Oh, yeah.
If this film was redone today, it would be great as a serious drama. Of course, you got to bring in good writers. Levinson, and I think his wife was the writer on this.
Yeah, I think that's what we said, yeah.
The two were married at the time.
Okay. So I think that having two writers work on a film like this for the relationship scene between Pacino and Lottie, the way they played off each other in the bedroom scene when they're talking and they're going on about this and that. I think they really played off each other. I think the dialogue really worked, and they really went at it great. And I think they did a great job with it. So you take a film with a subject matter like this has, and you redo it today, knowing everything that we do because of having access to the internet, being able to research worldwide corruption.
Right.
And just the United States alone has thousands upon thousands of cases in the past 10 years. Just look at the past 10, even the past 5 years. Corrupt judges, corrupt cops, corrupt politicians. A lot of people, especially if you go on the internet, you browse the forums, a lot of people are pissed off about stuff like that. So redoing this film today would really get people's attention.
Right.
And I don't know that it would get them talking any more than it already does, because if you watch news today, they sprinkle a bit of that in.
Yeah.
They dramatize it, of course, because it's the news and they need ratings. Yes. But I think a film like this redone today with the right director and probably a few writers, because I think you should keep the tumultuous storyline, weaving in all these clients and all these other people into this guy's life and making him turn this way and that. And it's all just chaos. And that's part of why I think his character explodes at the end. It's because he's struggling to keep his morals and do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's part of why he blows up at the judge. And the judge is like his friend, their buddy. They went up in the helicopter. They had a moment. They had a good time. But now he's got to go against the judge because he sees the judge as part of that corruption too. And he's like, hey, that's bullshit. You're out of order. Bullshit. So
I agree with you. And I think so to your point, you're saying if it were done, years later, it could have been done. If written well, it could have been done better. But I think it already has. I think that if you've seen The Wire, in terms because this takes place in Baltimore as well.
I noticed that.
So The Wire is probably the best example of something that I've seen that shows corruption on all levels. It covers the court system in depth. It covers media. It covers policing. To the most accurate representation of that corruption that I've ever seen dramatized. So I highly recommend that if that's something that you want to see, because I feel like it's been done there, but much more in depth and much more broad. Like, so in terms of a piece of entertainment, like if you're looking for like something interesting to watch, this is a lot more concise. So The Wire is quite a commitment. It's like 5 seasons. It takes a long time. It's hard to digest because it takes itself very seriously. But I feel like that's what this would be if it were taken that seriously, as opposed to this, which has all those, it has the funny elements to it as well. And a random question for you guys as well. This is 79. I was just seeing on the box.
Yep.
So to bring up another Al Pacino film, does anybody know when Serpico came out?
73.
Serpico 73.
Yeah.
So it came out before this.
Yeah, Serpico did, yeah.
That's interesting to me. Okay. Have you guys seen Serpico?
I actually haven't, no.
I have.
So just you, Alex.
Yeah. But it was a long time ago when I saw it.
Okay. So that's interesting because they handled corruption far more in depth, and it was a lot. They took it very seriously, and it was a very dry film in a way, not in a bad way. Just like it took it seriously. It took the subject matter seriously, but it was just police corruption. It wasn't focusing on the courts as much. But that was an Al Pacino film where they did that. But I guess they did it 6 years earlier. So I don't know. I just find that interesting because Serpico is a film where you figure they could have learned from something like that, but I mean, I guess it came before, so yeah, I guess not.
He was nominated for both too.
Yeah, he was.
It was funny. I was gonna say it was just a little funny tidbit.
And how you're saying like, yeah, the last his best lines at the end of the movie is like, that seems to be a Pacino trend.
Really does,
Because
yeah.
like, you know, obviously the one that comes to mind is Scarface. I mean, that's his famous line, and the movie's over in like a minute after that.
Pretty much.
The whole movie's a build up to that, and the whole movie's build up to this shit.
Did he do anything in Godfather that you could think of?
Well, in the third one he did, and no, not really in the first two. Like in terms of like a moment, like his bigger moments are scattered throughout the majority of the first two movies.
And
I
his
guess
bigger moments in that movie are silent as well.
That's true. Yeah, like the big thing at the end of the second one of Godfather 2 is of course, you know, with Fredo and all that, but he doesn't say a word.
Yeah.
And then in the end, he just sits there on the bench. And that's nothing. So.
Pacino's really good at that, actually.
He is.
And I think maybe it has something to do with the director as well. Like you guys were all saying earlier, is that I guess that's how they use him. And they want to...
You can just read his face.
Yeah, I guess some, like a good director like Coppola, he would want to just use his expressions. He knows what he can get out of Pacino just through expression. I guess whereas these guys, they want him to just yell some shit.
Yeah. Did have the one thing earlier, as you guys were talking about the sorry to change the subject completely backwards, but you guys were talking about the kids reciting the Pledge of Allegiance at the very beginning of the movie, and that immediately struck a chord with me because I mean you guys were talking about like the stilted reading and such, but I kind of interpreted it in a different way. It's basically the kids are used to saying these words, but the way they stumble over them, they clearly don't really understand what they mean. They just recite them because that's what they're told to do, but they don't realize the inherent meaning in what they're saying. And I feel like that could be an allegory for a lot of the people in the law system that the movie presents.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because I also didn't agree with everybody on that one. So I'm a little more in your camp. I didn't think of it like I see where you're coming from, but I didn't quite take it that way. I didn't go that much in depth with it. So for me, it was more of a kids always stumble on everything.
Yeah.
That's why Bill Cosby had that show, right? So sorry to bring that up, guys,
exactly
but that show, but that show is a good example, though, right? The kids say the darndest things is a good example, though, because the whole point is that kids stumble. So I don't think that that's like a knock against it. Kids will stumble whenever they talk. However, I think that the point of that was to kind of hammer home that every kid learns this. They're just given this. They're just given this to say, and like you said, they don't know what it means. But at the same time, it's so important to the country that every kid has to recite it, regardless. So they were just trying. I think they were just trying to hammer home just how important this was. So it's to your point as well. So I didn't see that as a negative on the film. Like I know you guys thought it was kind of off-putting, but I didn't find it that way.
See, for me, and that's a very interesting thought, and it could have very well been the thing. But at the same time, with some of the director's choices and things like that, he could have just been like, "Oh, we got some kids, let's read this because it's the justice thing." And honestly, it could have gone either way. I mean, because it's an interesting thought. It's an interesting thought. I'm not sure because I didn't think about that, but at the same time, he could have just been a fuck up. Honestly.
I'm definitely, I see where both of you are coming from. For me, I guess me and Zach are coming from is the execution of trying to get that point across was just, the delivery was too distracting enough for it to hit home, at least for us. But I do agree, I do see where both of you are coming from, and I do agree with it. That's probably what the intention was was to show that, these words are spoon-fed to children, but like most kids, you don't really feel the weight of it until really much later, or until it comes and whacks you in the face, because you're dealt with that stuff. So I definitely I definitely agree with you. But for I guess for you and me, it's on delivery. Where are you on that?
With the Pledge of Allegiance, when when the film opens, beautiful shots of inside the courthouse. I thought really good,
Those were the
really
best shots in the film.
really great framed shots. I think when you hear the kids speaking, it's a reference to the audience itself. The audience is going to see a film starring Al Pacino. He's a lawyer. Lawyers deal with justice and law, and most of the public has a very, very basic, if non-existent, understanding of how the law actually works. So we as an audience, we're going in with no knowledge whatsoever of what really happens behind the scenes in terms of law and order and corruption, which is why the committee was brought in, which is why we get into that little bit of storyline in the first place. So we're kind of like the children reciting the lines. We know how the law works, blah, 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 but we don't know anything about how law actually works until we go with Al Pacino's character behind the curtain and see the corruption underneath what we think is actually law and order. So
it's the theory practice thing again.
Yeah, it's the theory practice thing again. We're children at the beginning. We don't know anything. By the time we get to the end, we understand why he's mad, and we're just as mad as him. So I can understand the children saying the Pledge of Allegiance if I think about it that way. I don't know about the rest of you.
No, I definitely see. Yeah, I think we're all sort of the same opinion in terms of like what we took from all the moments. It's just our issues with it in terms of like the depth of it. Like we us is more of just an execution issue. For you two, it's a little bit more about what the actual thematic moment of it is and all that. So I do feel like we're sort of on the same page, but it's just like what we each took away from it. And obviously, we're gonna have our different takes and thoughts on it. But so we're almost actually at time in this first episode. So,
Here's a question though:
yeah.
What if after this movie, what if he went on to become Scarface?
Yeah, he just got a Cuban accent in 3 years.
Yeah, he spent his time in Cuba and was like, you know what?
The back of the DVD since we focused so much on the back of the
Because
case,
it is amazing, his face.
yeah, it also spoils like a bunch of the movie too. So like this is the
Not like
worst
this episode.
DVD case. Like old school DVD cases are just the worst. Nobody puts any thought into them.
You can tell. Like
the first thing I said when I saw
you can tell
it.
like when DVDs were made, but in each year by just as you said, like the early 2000s, you just looked at them and were like, what? Who made this?
It's like, thanks for fucking this up for me before I even watch it.
And it's just like, oh, did this take you like what, 5 minutes to make? Great, thanks.
In
and then
paint?
in paint, yeah. And then you get these like $40 Blu-rays which come with like a sleeve and it's all 3D and stuff. You're like, this is effort. I paid this. This is good.
However, the front I do like. So what a drastic shift. Just don't turn it over.
See, I think the front looks even cheaper.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I saw, and I said, what is this piece of shit? I was actually going to say that, too, is that I'd also wonder if there's a better restoration of this film, because the DVD
the DVD was a shitty DVD. Like,
but I'm wondering if there is one that they've brought. Is there?
Yeah, there's a Blu-ray. Yeah, I've seen, like, I've watched that ending clip on YouTube a couple times on, like, full, and it's much better.
Oh, okay.
It's nothing like, it's not going to look like a million times better.
No, but it was something that I noticed. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, have they not, like, if this has been completely forgotten,
Yeah, no. It has been restorated, at least in that sense. But I just for all you viewers who can't see anything, because how could you? I just have a old DVD. I'm trying to think, when was this even made? The DVD, like, not the
2002.
That's probably a good guess, but it doesn't say. It'd probably say on the DVD. It's one of the, just to tell you how old it is, it's a flip disc. Like, so one's full screen, one's widescreen.
That's right, kids.
Nightmares.
We once had things called full screen.
Oh, no.
4:3 aspect ratio.
No, they still have full screen. They crop 2351 movies to 16:9 now.
Yep.
It'll never end. They got to fill the screen. People just have they're petrified of black bars. They don't like seeing black bars in their movies.
They feel like they're being ripped off if they see black bars.
Yeah.
I
paid $40.
$40.
Why am I getting these 2 black bars? Show me more.
It's even worse now because I have like all these phones have that tall display. So when you watch things on like Netflix, you get black bars on the side. So it's almost making everything like a 4:3 aspect ratio now. So, but if you expand it, you lose tons of stuff on the top and bottom.
Yeah.
But people do it because they want to use their full display. like there are some Netflix shows that are pretty awesome that have that weird aspect ratio that the S8 has, but like it's just getting all over the place now. They have like different aspect ratios for different phones now. It's crazy.
Oh, it's just all over the place. Like there's no consistency at all, but it's just like, to me, I hate it more when, you know, somebody else goes out of their way to change how, like, I hate people who pan and scan just to fit onto a screen. Like that to me is just like, come on, like I get it. Some people may argue about it, but they have things on TVs now where you can zoom in. If you don't like the back bars, just zoom in on the TV. That's what they all used to do. So I don't know. It's a waste of money, especially at the time. It was a waste of money making 2 different copies of the same movie. I don't know.
Well, that's where the flip disc was innovative for its time.
True.
Because they used to release movies as a separate full screen and widescreen edition.
I know. I got burned so many times. Like, actually, the first time I bought Scarface, full screen.
What about Titanic?
I had the VHS.
VHS, widescreen, and full screen. I had both.
I had full screen. I didn't have the widescreen for those ones.
My mom bought both because she's crazy, and we had both. And I don't even know. I think we watched a full screen one.
I did too. I didn't receive that movie in widescreen until DVD.
Filling that screen, man.
Yeah.
Filling that screen.
But anyways, so yeah, we're at the end of our first episode here, and let's just kind of give our quick final sum up of And Justice for All and give good rating. So I'll just go first. I still like the movie. I think it's a movie you can just see once and you're good.
Yeah, it's one and done.
It's a good one and done. I think if you're a big fan of Al Pacino, you should definitely see it. I think it's one of his best performances. Not as great as, obviously. There are so many great performances that he's done that, you know, I would recommend seeing him over this movie any day. But I still think this is one of his better ones. And I think the script is good. When it was funny, it was funny. When it was serious, it was serious. But obviously, we all had issues with its pacing, its tone, and just... yeah, it didn't feel fully fleshed out as a movie, just a series of ideas. So that's what I think. Alex?
I liked it. Definitely see it. See it at least once. Do what Jack and I did. See it once. Come back 10, 15 years later. See it again when you've grown up a little bit and you got a little bit more intelligence and a little more time on your hands, perhaps.
A little wiser.
Yeah, a little wiser, a little older. Definitely see it. Don't pass it up. And fun little pseudo fact. One of the other lawyer friend of Pacino, you know, there's Tambor's character, there's Pacino's character, and
The blonde guy, yeah.
The blonde guy. I'm almost entirely certain that guy played Inspector Cobb in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Oh, shit.
His face was so familiar. It's always interesting to watch old movies and see young actors and then remember, I saw him in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, there's a guy from Terminator 2 in
That's
this movie,
right.
just
Joe
out
Morton.
of the blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was his name again?
Joe Morton.
Joe Morton, yeah. And just like, holy shit, he's in this. And then he's gone.
Yeah.
You're like, well, all right. Like, that movie was made like 12 years before Terminator 2. And it's like, oh, crap. So, yeah. Andrew?
Okay, I disagree. I don't think you need to see this.
You're out of order.
I liked it. It was a solid film. Like, if you saw it on TV, sure. Like, I could see it being one of those films that pops on TV. You watch it, you get sucked in enough to finish the film, and it's definitely worth a watch. I wouldn't say avoid it at all. I think it's worth seeing, but don't go out of your way. Like, I don't think it's something that you have to rush out and see. And I definitely don't think you need to rewatch it, especially if you waited like 10 years. You could watch this movie once, watch it once as an adult. How about that? Watch it once as an adult, and then you never have to watch it again. It's one of those, and it's not necessarily a compliment. Like Detroit, I saw recently that that's a movie where I watch it once because I don't ever want to watch it again because it's hard to watch. This isn't hard to watch. This is something that is just okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's definitely not. It's I don't know. It's in the middle. It's not overrated or underrated. It's okay. It's probably just about right.
Yeah.
You see, I kind of disagree actually with the only watching it once thing, because you need to watch it once as an adult, You need to watch it a second time about 10 years of space when it was between this movie and what the real soundtrack, actually like 9 years actually, between this movie and what the real soundtrack would be, the Metallica album and Justice for All. And you sync that up with the movie, I bet you that would be an experience.
No,
But
that would be worth a rewatch.
So kind of
Yes,
like
that'd be worth
Dark
a
Side
rewatch.
of the Moon with Wizard of Oz.
is that, why not try it out? It might be interesting, you know. That might be a reason to even watch it in the first place if you're not that interested,
No,
right?
see, what I would do is I would do a supercut of the entire movie, probably improve the pacing a bit to the
Oh, yeah.
to the 9-minute
Oh, yeah.
song in Justice for All. So just because you can like take out all the stuff you don't need, just create a nice little parallel, and you can probably tell the whole story. And that song with the lyrics and just the part that when there's no lyrics, you can just fill in so much stuff. Someone please do this for me.
Al Pacino has taken my speech.
Can we just agree that that's the version you should watch?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Just
sure it'd be
that
great.
version, not this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, like to go back to like what I was actually going to say though. I mean, I do like it. I do agree with the whole like, yeah, you should probably watch it once. I mean, if you want to watch it Metallica, go ahead. Let me know how it is. Yeah, I mean, it was good. I'd say definitely go see it, but like Andrew said too, like don't go out of your way to see it necessarily. But it's worth a watch. I mean, if you like Al Pacino, you like, I don't even know what the fuck you'd call this. It's like a dramedy, I guess.
Black comedy.
The official
don't know. Yeah, I guess.
write-up was a satirical courtroom drama.
Is
It's
it actually
not.
officially supposed to be a satire though?
Yeah.
It's not a drama.
Like a lot of
satire.
a lot of reviews that I saw were like black comedy.
Yeah, that's better.
Satirical courtroom
Yeah.
drama, just a bunch of stuff like it's all that stuff. Because there are some things in there that are like a little silly.
It
like,
didn't seem self-aware enough to be satire though.
No.
Not
I'd
entirely.
agree with black comedy. That seems about right to me.
Yeah, it was just too comical. I mean, I would almost say for the first three like quarters, I mean, you'd have like quick moments like, when they're talking about certain clients and things like that, and it's like, oh, but then they would move quickly to jokes, and that goofy music. And it wasn't really till the last quarter that it actually got like really serious and actually kind of hit home a little bit before it abruptly ended.
Yeah.
So it's the tonal, obviously, as we said many times on this episode, is the big issue, with the tone, but there's a lot of good things here. I think you should see it. Again, if you're a fan of, the 70s of Al Pacino and, some good performances and, it's a weird movie, but, check it out.
For sure.
Yeah, I thought the movie was pretty good. It was enjoyable. Definitely worth the one watch. I would recommend checking it out. It did have a lot of good elements. And I can applaud it for being a movie that's critical of the establishment and made in the 70s. So that's pretty good. But and at the very least, maybe you can watch it and maybe you can try and answer some of the questions that this movie doesn't really bother to. Yeah, I mean, really, I don't know if it would be worth a rewatch. Like, I mean, I suppose if I'm flipping channels and stumble across it, I might watch it again. But overall, I think I've gotten pretty much what I'm gonna get out of it. I think it was an enjoyable movie. I don't know if I'd call it underrated though. It's probably rated just the right amount.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Dyer's Eve and that courtroom scene would have been pretty good.
Yeah. I think the helicopter scene alone is underrated. So
Yeah, I'd say it's slightly underrated overall, but I would say that I kind of see why also it's been lost.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think it in terms of, like I said, the biggest thing for me is like if you're a big fan of Al Pacino and you like and all that, it is compared to a lot of his other roles that get attention. Like Jack and Jill, it really like this at least needs to be experienced to see. Oh, he at least used to pick good roles. And then it's funny, like in terms of his history of his career, like this was like the last big one, and then the 80s was a dead time for him. Like he only did 2 movies in the 80s that were of any significance. One was Scarface, and the other one was like Sea of Love, or something like that.
And he was really good in that.
Yeah, that was like his comeback movie, and then that was done before Godfather 3 and a couple other movies. So, but yeah, so there we go. That's the first episode. Next time, it's going to be Zach's turn, I believe, right?
Yeah, I'm still deciding on the movie, but I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out.
So many to pick.
Oh, yeah, and I think this is going to be one of the few times where all of us are kind of on the same page with the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice on one hand that we're all kind of like, yeah, but at the same time, you know, conflict is entertainment.
Oh yeah, like I feel like this.
we'll get
You know
to
what?
that.
I feel like this is a good episode to start on. Movie starting because we're kind of like just dipping our toes into it. We're kind of getting a feel of it. We're getting used to talking to phallic images in front of our faces the entire time.
Right.
So yeah, no, I think it was for something to kind of just just tread the water a little. I think it was a good pick. I'm happy I saw it. I'm happy I got to finally see this again after I don't know how long it's been. Like I feel like I saw this with like my dad, and I hadn't seen my dad in like so long. Like got serious quick.
Oh, that got, yeah.
Just like the movie.
Yeah.
Gonna say.
And now we switch over to counseling hour.
Yeah.
With Jack. Alex, go ahead.
So just to overkill that line one more time, but to paraphrase it a little bit, we missed this movie. You missed this movie.
And on that note, thank you for listening, whoever did listen to us, and see you next time.